Welcome, this is Bill Jones again. Bill Jones from Freedom's Nest. You can find us on YouTube and also my website, recapturefederalism.com. Recapturefederalism.com. This presentation, as I promised from the last one, which was the two parties about treason, sedition, and subversion, I said I would have one on the American party press, treason, sedition, and subversion. The thoughts and ideas are a continuation, since they're the mouthpiece, the public relations firms for the party. And I'll show you where that comes from. That's right from the guidelines of the Communist parties. But first, as I always do, I, William R. Jones, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. So help me God. As I say, I took that oath first time in 1965 when I joined the Navy. The enemy then was communism, and it still is. And that's people that are communist, pro-communist, support communism, collaborate with communists, and the communist ideology, all of the above. You do not have to be a communist to adhere to communism or collaborate with communists. The overthrowing of the people of the United States, which is the government of the United States, is directly related to the Communist Manifesto. I've read it before and I'll read it again because it's very, very meaningful in the context of my presentation today. And this quote: "Finally, they labor everywhere for the union and agreement of the democratic parties of all countries. The communists disdain to conceal their views and aims. They openly declare their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. Let the ruling classes tremble at the communistic revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries unite." Yep. Forcible overthrow of all existing conditions, and that includes governments and peoples. Their idea is to enslave people, kill some if they have to. That's the way they operate. Make them tremble, fear. That's their method of operations. They have many of methods of operations. They have a whole section, a whole paper that was written up in 1921, the guidelines of the Communist parties. I've gone through it many times. They have an entire section, section 6, on the party press, line items, and each line item has a couple paragraphs to several paragraphs. But line items 36 through 42. And they go all through on how to control, not necessarily own, but to control party press and get party press to do some of their dirty work. I'm not going to go into the specifics, but you've seen how they operate. They operated for years in the Soviet Union. An argument can be made they still have the communist press in Russia since the breakup of the Soviet Union. they still mouth the comments from the party press verbatim. And that's where the party press here in the United States gets in the problem. Article 6 of the Constitution of the United States talks about public trust. The press in the United States, that's what they have. They're supposed to represent the truth. No slander, no character assassinations, no libel. It's supposed to be the truth. At least come close, but they don't even come close. You see, the First Amendment, freedom of press, is the freedom for the people. It's freedom for the government, which is the people. It's their right. The press, as individuals, have a right, the same right as everyone else. The structure and organization of the press, people who own the press and who print, have an obligation to tell the truth. It's interesting, the state of Illinois, when they ratified the last Constitution, the fourth Constitution in 1970, and I have mentioned in the past that I ratified and consented to that Constitution. In the Bill of Rights of the present state Constitution of Illinois, there is no specified freedom of the press. It's all incorporated in the freedom of speech. And you have the right to publish. And that's the right is to the individuals. You are responsible for any abuse, and the defense of libel and slander is the truth. If you believe something is true and you have a source and you can show and you do believe that it is the truth, that's your defense. Now, the press in America, for a very, very long time, has been the mouthpiece of the two political parties. Would anybody argue that they're not? That at least some of them are biased, if not all of the formal press? It's interesting enough that those ones, the larger ones, what's known as the mainstream media, almost all of those are public corporations. So you have public corporations who are supposed to maintain the public trust, who then, if they're mouthing and repeating the adherence to the Communist Manifesto and guidelines of the Communist parties, they are then collaborating in treasonable acts. I said in the previous presentation, one should be able to sue the political parties. I believe that extends to the press. They, by their printing, are denying your right of freedom of speech and freedom of press through their violations of the public trust. And I believe that they can be and should be financially liable to each and every citizen who takes them to court. The question then becomes, what about major stockholders? Are they responsible? I don't hear them squawking or doing anything else about the lies that are being spread and the deceptions that are being spread by the media. It's interesting, here just in the last few days, we've got this professor coming out and saying being shown that he was deceptive raises a lot of questions for me. Of course, I look at things a little bit different than other people. I'm not an attorney, but I do know how to read and think and observe. I wonder if he testified before Congress and what he said before Congress under oath, and if he was in contempt of Congress. Will anybody pursue that? What was reported in the media? What has been reported in the media recently? Did they report in the media his deceptions as truths prior to the last couple of weeks? We have Pelosi, who at the time was Speaker of the House. Did she repeat some of the deceptions? And what she said, was that printed for public consumption? Did the press knowingly repeat from Miss Pelosi or others or other people at other times for different things? Things that are lies, things that are deceptions. That makes them responsible. You see, if the Democrats, democratic centralism, and people are adhering to communism, and they spout this stuff, and then it's reported in the media, aren't they aiding and abetting in treasonable acts? You see, they just come along and say, just like the politicians, I'm not responsible for that. It's somebody else. It's always somebody else. And now in the media, they're going to do the same thing? Well, it's just these other people. They're the ones that told the lie. We just repeated it and printed it. No. That's not how it works. They're responsible for the public trust. If they knowingly make mistakes, they have corrections. You ever hear them having corrections about politicians? No, I doubt it. No, I doubt it. I haven't heard too many. Will they with this professor? I doubt it. I'd be rather nervous if I was a stockholder in any of these media companies who could have financial liabilities in criminal activity such as treason, sedition, and subversion. Now, I've already talked about and read you the quote, page 34 of the Communist Manifesto, forcibly overthrowing social conditions. That was written in 1848. A long time. A lot of those advocating of things goes way back 100 years or so. And yet these lies are repeated, spread. The truth is not told and hasn't been told by the press and the media. And as I say, they're proud of the fact that they forcibly overthrow governments. And in the United States, again, Title 18, USC, Chapter 115, Section 2385, advocating the overthrow of government. That's what I read. That's what they do. Communists do. And we have politicians in this country and others and collaborators with them who are advocating the overthrow of government of the United States. And in the United States, that's the overthrow of the citizens to enslave them and what have you. There's a limitation to the amount of freedom of press and freedom of speech, especially when it comes to the overthrow of government, treason, sedition, seditious conspiracy, insurrection. You cannot be advocating that. And it's very specific, the supreme law of the land, in what I just sourced. Let me read the first paragraph. Whoever knowingly or willfully advocates, abets, advises, or teaches the duty, necessity, desirability, or propriety of overthrowing or destroying the government of the United States or the government of any state, territory, district, or possession thereof, or the government of any political subdivision therein, by force or violence, or by the assassination of any officer of any such government, or, and it continues on another couple paragraphs. Ought to read it sometime. But that's interesting, isn't it? You can't publish this stuff. We have the American press repeating things from people who are advocating the overthrow of the United States government. We've had some officers, police officers, law enforcement officers, sworn officers, in the last couple of months been assassinated. That's a form of insurrection. And it's also advocating the overthrow of the government. 2 California highway patrolmen assassinated by a man who had been deported a couple times. So you have people, the government, president, just allowing these people back in, and they're not going to arrest them or anything. And they're assassinating people. If I were law enforcement anywhere in this country, I would be outraged at the President of the United States and elected representatives, state, federal, don't make any difference. I'd be concerned about my safety. The family of police officers and law enforcement should be concerned also. Their safety is being directly threatened. And I suppose, I read that article. They should be trembling, and they are trembling, and that's what you're getting from that, is assassinations, fear to just do your job and enforce the law. Of course, we had others. We had one in Gary, Indiana, a couple months ago. Police officer sitting in his car. Somebody walks up to him and assassinates him. They're out now still looking, and nobody will answer. Nobody's answering the question. There's got to be somebody who knows who did that. I wonder if it was organized. We'll hopefully find that out. With Pennsylvania, 2 officers shot, one fatally, the other one seriously wounded. There was an assassination. They got the guy. That action was advocating the overthrow of the government. And we have people, you don't hear the press talking about that. That's what that is. That's what it is. That's what the law says. And by them being silent and quiet, they're not telling the truth. They should be broadcasting that man who killed the 2 officers out in California was advocating the overthrow of the government. He was committing a treasonable act. But we don't hear that. We don't hear it from public officials. We don't hear it from the press. And we don't hear it from others. It's what I talked about in previous presentation. The silence regarding Article 3, Section 3 about treason. We don't even hear anything from constitutional scholars about this. Can you imagine that? A heinous crime like treason which is a capital crime, we hear nothing but silence. Well, maybe those constitutional scholars, maybe they ought to be sued. Dereliction of duty, violation of the public trust. They aren't even close. They don't say anything at all. They're not even telling a little fib. They're telling nothing. But they're sure not telling the truth, are they? What about lawyers and judges? What about them? They say nothing. They have a job, a responsibility under misprision of treason, of saying and doing something. They're supposed to know about that. How about all those lawyers over there, Fox News? How about them? Don't they know the law? No, they Fox News. It's Fox News, except the the business side, power to prosper. I guess under communism. Fair and balanced on the news side. Fair and balanced between what? The Republicans and the Democrats, two criminal enterprises. Where's the truth there? They don't even represent the possibility that that is a truth. And I can make that argument and I can show you where that's true. They don't even discuss it. They're promoting things, aren't they? They're promoting people who are adhering to the Communist Manifesto and the guidelines of the Communist Party. They're in the bag, maybe not as much as the others, but they're in the bag for the criminal enterprises. Maybe somebody ought to go after them for violating the public trust also. Until the next time, good day.